Yes, hello. Welcome everybody to Heard on Thursdays. Good evening, monsters. So happy to be with you guys this Thursday evening. And I know it might come as a surprise to some of you to be hearing me tonight because, yes, I am the new host of HOT. You're with me, Nikki Porter, for more hot conversation on Heard on Thursdays. So, the show that made FM radio talk only on season's hottest, Monster RX93.1. And before anything else, I'd like to thank the Monster and my predecessors. You got JC Tevez and the show's founder and original host. You got Rafi Reyes as well as their co-host for making Heard on Thursdays the iconic radio magazine talk show that it is today. And for giving me the chance to be heard as its new host. So, as JC said when our guest tonight was in HOT a year ago, this show is fire, then and now. And I hope to keep the flame burning with you guys. So, stay with me, monsters. I shall keep Heard on Thursdays. HOT. Hot. Especially with guests such as we have tonight. So, speaking of fire, especially, she has plenty of it to share. She's got the kind of fire that ignites passion, energy, your whole being to become the highest version of yourself. So, she is billed as the Chief People Awakener, as a life coach, as a motivational speaker, as a trainer, an NLP thought expert, a hypnotherapist, and now a YouTuber. She awakens awesome people. And I don't want to spoil it, but we actually are. All of us are awesome people. And I think that Sherry could agree with that as well. We even if we don't know it yet, I believe that we are. So I'm spoiling you guys right now. So she is also one of the most widely followed transformation coaches in Asia. She's a master practitioner in NLP, and that means neuro-linguistic programming. And yes, we will talk a little bit about that later. She's also an international keynote speaker, an author, and the founder of Master Transformation Rockstar of the World Stage International Network. She's helped over 300,000 individuals and teams achieve their goals, fire them up with compelling action steps and results, build fascinating teams and brands, and turn around negative growth to positive outcomes. Ladies and gentlemen, monsters of all ages, Heard on Thursdays, Chief People Awakener, Cherry Pua-Africa. Hey!
Hello, Nikki. How are you? And first and foremost, congratulations on your first episode of HOT.
Oh my gosh, how did I do with my intro right there? Well, I am so happy that you are here with me on my first hosting of Heard on Thursdays. So, JC, my predecessor, he usually likes to start off with how you have been you've been a frequent guest here and Heard on Thursdays. So he likes to start the show by just catching up with how you've been ever since your last guesting, which was I think November of last year. So what have you been? How have you been dealing with the times? We are at alert level 2. So has anything changed in your life since then?
Uh, been very busy, very, very busy, Nikki. Actually, been doing a lot of work. There's a lot of tired souls around us,
True.
and we're
Agree.
really just here helping to just generate some fire so that people will remember the inner fire inside of them. It's been very exciting and tiring sometimes, but still having a lot of fun and learning a lot. Learning a lot.
Yeah. So your current billing now is a Chief People Awakener instead of a transformation rock star. So I want to know what has changed since then, or what does the title now signify in that change?
It's emergence, Nikki, right now. The emergence, I guess, of a new identity with the
Mm-hmm.
whole, system, the context, the ecosystem just transforming. I want to be part of that huge awakening that's happening to humanity, to be part of
Right.
that, to help mentor people so that they will awaken to their best versions. I think it will be an honor to do that. And hence, I decided to actually take on that exciting title to remind me every day that, I need to stay awakened so that, human beings will actually find their true highest potentials.
And it's a very interesting term, chief people awakener. So, does this actually suggest that, there is something that you want to awaken in people? Do you think that, during the pandemic, people have quote unquote fallen asleep on their dreams, the goals that they've had? So, are people have they been too timid and afraid to reach out for their goals because of the fears this pandemic has actually instilled?
Mhm. I guess it's awakening, Nikki, the consciousness, our
Mm-hmm.
mindsets, our beliefs, right? We were created to be this awesome people, no? To be super human, I guess, extraordinary. And yet, because of, what's happening in our world, the everyday mundane things that happened before the
Mm,
pandemic, sometimes we take this for granted, right? But
right.
now we are in this impossible crisis, and the human soul, the human body must awaken to the challenge. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's really just I guess it's a challenging process to try and be at the front line of trying to,
Right.
make people remember, not forget, how great we are. We are built for this. And basically, my goal is really just to help people remember again, and to provide
Mm-hmm.
the tools that will install their identity as, their highest versions.
Yeah, you mentioned challenges. And so from for people to actually try and awaken themselves, of course it comes with a lot of challenges and probably a lot of trepidation also in wanting to become the better version or to plan new things in their lives in the next year as well.
Mhm.
So, do you think we are also, or some of us are suffering from a sort of PTSD, and how Sir Rafi puts it is a pandemic traumatic stress disorder. So it's like
Pandemic traumatic.
yeah. So it's like something that we like we now that we were living in this strange normal, like we are working from home and everything, quarantine conditions, like we might have a hard time changing again into something that is a different kind of new normal for us as well. So even if it means like giving up our goals, do you think that this is also a possible hesitation that we have because we have this sort of PTSD?
I guess, I like how Rafi actually said it's pandemic. What's that? Pandemic,
Traumatic
traumatic
stress disorder.
stress disorder. I've coached a lot of people and a lot of teams, Nikki, and there's
Mm,
been a lot of stress just there. No, somehow in
mm.
this whole pandemic, we became 10% human being and 90% stress. Stress. So there's just a lot of stress, and the hormones, the cortisols, and everything. And so we wanted to also awaken the happy, powerful hormones we have: the dopamine, the serotonin, right? The
Mm-hmm.
endorphins, oxytocins, all of these happy hormones and confident hormones, to try and remind us to awaken from boredom, from
Mm-hmm.
exhaustion, from frustration, from desperation, from
Right.
misery, even depression, right? To try and find something new. This is a great time for us to emerge a new identity, a great time for us to try and awaken new hobbies, to try
Mm-hmm.
and listen to the brilliant ideas that have been, there, but we just take them for granted. This is
Right.
this impossible time is also a time for a lot of possibilities to awaken. And then it's so important to be in the right mindset, and more importantly in the right state, in the right
Mm,
emotion,
that's right.
in order for us to feed, the awakening of humanity inside us.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a lot of soul purpose, I guess, a lot of spiritual awakening that needs to come. the body tries to adjust to the new things, no, of the
Right.
new work and the new normal.
For those who are tuned in, you are listening to Heard on Thursdays with me, Nikki, and I have my guest, Chief People Awakener, Cherry Pua-Africa, who is talking to us about how to awaken our best selves. I think that's one way to shorten it. But also, so we've talked about the definition of Chief People Awakener and what it entails, what people are going through, and how we can awaken ourselves in the midst of the pandemic. But aside from that, I actually do want to focus this next part for the next few minutes on you, actually. So, as a life coach, as a motivational speaker, I want to know what it took for you to actually be one. Was it something that you've always wanted to do, or was there a pivotal moment in your life that made you want to turn your life around and then direct you towards the path of motivational speaking and transformational
Mhm.
coaching?
Mhm. I've always wanted to work with people, Nikki, to help people in some ways, no? And I think I've been given this gift to also use words to try and inspire, enlighten, illuminate, shed light. No, ever since I was a child, I've been wanting to do that. My first job out of college, Nikki, I worked
Mhm.
in a corporate setting and I
Mm.
did a lot of marketing. And then as I awakened more to my true purpose, to my dharma, to my calling, I realized, I'm really for people and I've been, the soul and the spirit is yearning to actually work with people. And so I decided to get more into coaching. I learned coaching through NLP when I was in Singapore. I've lived in Singapore and Malaysia for 12 years. When I was there, I
Mhm.
bumped into coaching and more coaches. So I was with like-minded people, no? So it
Mm.
was easy to generate new dreams, I guess, no? To twinkle ideas with these people, and to actually just try it out. So I learned NLP.
Mhm.
NLP is neuro linguistic programming. It's basically what I use to coach. It's a tool that I use to coach that includes mindset, language, communication, and our behavior. And from there, work with a lot of people, leaders, teams, individuals, young people, old people from all walks of life. It's really my life changed more than I helped change their lives. And so it's so much rewarding. And I've just really enjoyed it. It's a generative process for me. It generates new ideas, new energies all the time. I love
Mhm.
where I am. And I hope, that through some of the tools that I share, that I'm also able to actually make this a better place for people to live in.
Right. And it's a good thing that you are living, you are living your dream actually, because not only are you putting positive energy out there towards other people, for other people, you are living it like because you did follow what it is that you want, and it's just something that we can try and aspire also in our lives. Now, I also wanted to well, I actually wanted to bring up. I listened to the first episode of your podcast. It's called The Awakener, and you mentioned, or I think it was in passing, but then I caught up to it that you had a mentor or you had a coach, Tony Robbins, and I feel like a lot of people know him as a very popular motivational speaker in YouTube. So tell us more like about that. Was he an influence? Was he? Did you actually meet him to become your coach, or was it just
Mhm,
something that he followed him on your socials on YouTube? What's that story
mhm.
like?
Nikki, I was in a very quite dark place, many years ago in my career
Mm.
and in my life when I really didn't know how to shape my future and my dreams and to express it in a way that people can appreciate it. And so I was looking for, how I could actually express my goal. And when I was in Singapore, Tony Robbins went there and he brought firewalking with him. And I thought, that's really
Oh.
interesting. And he was talking more about transcendence of fear and everything. And I thought, I was in that in between part of my life where there's a lot of fear and a lot of doubt and hesitation. So I thought I'll do anything in order to find that light. And so one of the things that I challenged myself with, and which Tony Robbins brought as a tool in Singapore, was to firewalk. So I said, okay, there my soul, let's go firewalk.
Wow.
And after that, life just changed for me. Something lit. I guess. And the message to me of that fire walk is that it is going to be my mission to try to be NLP, which is natural light provider, to provide more light to this world.
Mm.
And so a year after I went to Dallas, the first thing that I did was to actually help in Tony Robbins' UPW, Unleash the Power Within, where I actually worked as a coaching crew. There was a group of young students who were attending the conference, and we were there to actually support the youth there in their
Okay.
formation. And I followed his work. No, there was no major conversation or deep conversation with Tony, but it's really following his work and being, working parallel his work. And there's really just a lot of inspiration. And from there, also learned a lot from other great motivational speakers and, great energy awakeners also.
Mm-hmm.
And life just flowed after that. I feel that coaching, where I am right now, I'm at my flow state, which is I'm always feeling my best. I think becoming
Wow.
my best and hopefully doing my best for whatever mission I set myself to.
Mm. Sana all feeling your best every day. Yeah.
Not all the time, Nikki, di ba? Not
Okay.
all the
Oh,
time.
that's
We
true.
are
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I agree. But I want to get to that state also. What do you call it? Float state?
flow
Yeah.
state, flow
Flow
state, yeah.
state. Oh,
Flow,
wow. Yeah.
flow, yeah.
That is the goal right now. Well, anyway, so okay, so when you do these when you do your sessions with, with companies or with groups of people as a chief people awakener or a master transformational coach, do you ever come across people who just aren't receptive to your message? Like uh when it comes to motivational coaching, either, when you do those team buildings, how do you deal with those people who aren't as receptive, or have you ever encountered like someone who wasn't so receptive in the mess in your message, and how did you get through to them? Was there an instance?
Many instances, many instances. It just tells me and reminds me that not all people are in the same state. And who am I to actually say that I'm at the right place and you're at the wrong place, right? I think the
Right.
most important thing here is in order for you to bridge the gap, no? To bring a person to where the person might want to be, not where I want to bring the person, but to where the person want to be, is to begin from the present state or present space of that person.
Right.
So it is our job as coaches, and we are really just sidekicks to their transformation. It's not about us, it's about them. And so we go and go to where they are, understand what their states are, what their mindsets are,
Mm-hmm.
and you know and enable, I guess, enable through the words, through the tools, enable them to try and expand their consciousness, their mindsets, so that they could receive some message that can help them.
Mm-hmm.
uh, there is and there shouldn't be any ego in coaching, because it is
Important.
never about
Yeah.
the coach. It is always about the person that you're helping with, helping, guiding. And hence the reason why I prefer to call myself as an awakener versus a coach, right? An awakener is someone who sponsors the identity of the other person and awakens the vision and the mission, the vision, the purpose of that person, so that everybody will actually connect to something that's meaningful to them. And
Mm-hmm.
hence life is so much worth living, and which is why we are all here for, to shape, what life must be, so that we make this a better world for the future generation.
That's true. That is so true. I felt that it's like I am in a coaching session with Jerry Africa right now. I love it. It's like I have my own one-on-one. It's fantastic. I'm learning so much as I am learning about you and your profession as well. Now we talked
Thank you,
about
Nikki.
you're very welcome. Well, we talked about people who, who react negatively to, motivational coaching. But what about the other side of the spectrum? Those who are interested in wanting to change their lives. What are the first questions that they ask you, or what are the common or usual issues that they actually want to confront? Like, what's the number, or maybe like top three things, if ever, if there are any, when it comes to them look seeking out help? Like, why?
Mhm.
What are the three possible whys?
When people come to me and ask me questions, what happens is that we actually give birth to more questions. And I realize sometimes that the questions they ask me are really not, this presenting question is not the real question. And so there will be a lot of times when I feel that there's a little bit of, lack of confidence or hesitation or doubt around that question. I would look at them in the eye and ask them, what's the real question out there? And when you ask them that question, suddenly just go to somewhere deep inside them, and the question becomes a little bit more spiritual, I guess, and they feel that, if they feel safe to share it, then
Hmm.
they get to ask the real questions, and these real questions are those that we wanted to actually help address, not to try and provide them that space, and that hope, I guess, and the tools for them to actually cross that in between space so that they could move to the next better space. Some of the questions that are asked of me is, how can I find my true purpose? No, how can I get closer to my goal? How can I
Yeah.
overcome the past that's haunting me? There's a lot of questions about, trying to regressive questions, right? Trying to heal the past so that they could
Right.
actually move forward.
That's true.
So there's a lot. And how can I have energy, I guess, at this time of, when this thing just drains us, and makes us sad at times, right? There's a lot
Hmm.
of perhaps death, a lot of not just death of people, but also death of dreams,
Hmm.
broken promises, plans that didn't materialize, and it's just sucking the energy and the marrow out of life from us.
Hmm. That's just it. Well, I just love that, even if it's hard, you the for you to be able to just persevere like through those situations, especially listening to people. I feel like that
Mhm.
is one of the most important things for you as well as a coach, is to listen to the people who are
Mhm.
seeking out for your help as well. And I think that's just fantastic. And that's why this is just such a, I am just so in awe of you right now. Can I just say, is just a very great time for you to be my first guest. It's like
Hey,
really,
thank you.
I'm
It is.
realizing things as well in my life.
I'm so excited when you said it's your first, episode, and I hope I'm making you look forward to many more episodes.
Yeah,
And
definitely. So I actually, well, okay, so let's talk about this pandemic as well. So of course, a lot of people have a trepidation, maybe a bit of trauma also with the pandemic. And for the pandemic killing a lot of our dreams, actually, a lot of people thought like by 2020, it's the start of a new decade. Let's do something that will really change our lives. And then this pandemic came and broke everything in its path.
Mhm.
So now it's almost 2022. The economy is restarting, we're recuperating slowly but surely, and we're heading maybe into post pandemic times. But we still have to be wary about the current situation, of course. So, for all of us who still have that kind of hesitation into trying to move things forward in our lives, how can we be careful but at the same time transform and take risks in this ever changing time in our lives?
I what choice do we have anyway, right? I mean, at the end of the day, we really just need to wake up again and to actually just go out there and, I guess, emerge something. uh the pandemic is has cost us and given us a lot of black eyes, no, and has made us kneel down on our knees. This is the most uh challenging, impossible, tiring, frustrating, but informative year of our life, and also accepting year. It has taught us to be a little bit more humble, I guess, and to be
True.
grateful for the little things that we have, to awaken us to what's the most important thing in life. And these are all friendships and family and love and generosity and compassion. For the, for whatever, difficulties that the pandemic has hit us, there are also some gifts that it has given us, this rude awakening. And it's everyone is experiencing it, I guess. So, we are starting off from somewhere the same, from a sameness. And so it is so great to just build something. right?
Mhm.
To build a dream, to build an identity, to build a team, to build new hopes, to build ambitions, so many ways that we could build. And it will start from our raw energy. So I'd like to think that the pandemic also awakened the different, animal strengths in us.
Mhm.
This pure, raw energy, that just wants to come out and be fierce and, be
Mhm.
pure and just go for it. So we go for it.
Yes, definitely. If the pandemic ruined plans, then now is the time to rebuild. Totally agree with that.
Yes.
Also, for monsters who are just joining us, we are live on Twitch, YouTube, and on Facebook at RX931. I am talking to Miss Cherry Pua-Africa. She is the Chief People Awakener, and I am slowly being awakened by by Cherry herself. So I also wanted to know. So you said there was a rude awakening, and I totally agree. Also, in terms of the work life balance and us having to work from home, and the time that we actually kind of regained also in hindsight for us to be able to work from home as well. And because of that, people have actually learned new skills during the quarantine. So people have learned how to bake sourdough bread, different kinds of bread. People learned yoga, different meditation practices, or simply, very simply just learning how to operate an appliance like a washing machine.
Mm.
So those
Yes.
simple skills, those are the things that they have learned. So would you actually consider all of this as new learning to constitute transformation, or is it just an escape from the uneasy times, with no lasting impact on the person and their future?
I guess when there is growth, there is transformation. Now, inside the word transformation is a small word, and that is form. If your
Mm,
form changes, whether it's physiology, whether it's your state, it's your mindset, something becomes bigger, something
right.
becomes gets thrown away to actually be replaced by something refreshing and new. That's transformation. And transformation of our skills also, right? So that we are able to actually, do more things, do bigger things, do deeper things. I think that's a welcome change for us. Now it feeds not just the body, it also feeds the spirit and the soul.
Yes, I agree. And when so I also wanted to bring this up because in the United States, maybe it's unrelated here, but because of this rude awakening, currently they're encountering this like great resignation. Millions of Americans are
Yes.
decided to resign from their jobs. Now here, unemployment rate is actually has decreased from last year in September 2020. But there's a different group of people also who I have had the pleasure to actually speak to with regards to changing their lifestyle, whether it be drastic life decisions or not, in a good way though, in during the pandemic. So I actually spoke to them and they said that they've actually decided to resign from their jobs because when it started to be like work from home and they wanted to go back to the office, like immediately that's when they passed their resignation letter. And some people have actually resigned so that they can breathe again or try and live again. And so I want to know, like, what has the pandemic, or let's just break it down more into the rude awakening of the pandemic as well, that made these young professionals actually want to change their life? Like, what are these emotions that they're going through, or what is it like, what is that pivot point in this pandemic that finally made them do the thing that they wanted to do?
Boredom, I guess. Right? It's really just the repetition of things, right? You wake up and then you do the same thing, and then
Routine, yeah.
you go through the same motions, and then and you're no longer challenged because there are probably no other people to interact with. Just the boredom itself once compels the spirit to look for something new.
Mm,
And yes, we
yep.
are experiencing. I've worked with a lot of teams, and they're actually, experiencing these great resignations or great exodus. Right? It's
Yeah.
it's kind of, it's difficult for companies actually, because like their ambition to reach your goal, the context has changed, the ecosystem has changed, and the culture is sometimes wounded.
Mhm.
Work is no longer as seamless as it is. There's a lot of siloization. It's just hard. I mean, I empathize with the leaders. I empathize also with the people working. People are just really stretched.
Yeah, that
But
is true.
always say, but we've no choice but to rebuild, right? I mean, all of us are in the same situation, in the same state, and uh, I guess one of the rude awakenings of this pandemic is, to answer the call of the spirit, to answer the call of the soul. To put your
Yeah.
body in a place that will truly make you happy, so that even if you break into sweat, into blood, what is you are actually connected to something that is meaningful to your life. I guess that's what people are looking for. And the boredom is speaking to them, is actually, opening up new options for them.
Hmm.
And it doesn't help, that the situations just become so difficult and so
Yeah,
challenging.
that is true. So,
Mhm.
how about when it comes to transformation and and achieving your goals? Not not pandemic related, but when a crisis strikes, a different crisis that strikes in your life, probably a family matter, a change in your job situation. How do you awaken and transform through all of that in the midst of that kind of crisis, a personal one?
Mhm. I guess when you see, when you talk about goals, you talk about future, right? The future
Hmm.
state, the future space where you want to be. And here you are in that present tense. And between the future and the present is a middle, which we want to be magical, but the truth is it is actually messy. No, we are all caught up in broken systems, broken relationships, people fighting, conflicts, tired energies, etc. It's the middle is really just messy. And hence, it is so important for us to learn how we could actually bridge this chasm, right? So that we're able to actually move from one place to the other, so that we're able to actually reach our goal and understand it. I guess it's really more listening, listening to yourself,
True.
listening to the yearnings of the soul, having stock of your skills, understanding where you are and where you want to be, and just staying true to your purpose. These are all tools. There are tools that can help us to just stay in our goals and stay, and the stamina to persist, no
Hmm.
uh, to stay there despite all odds.
So you're saying that it is possible in the midst of a crisis. But it doesn't mean it. But it doesn't mean it is easy, right? I mean, it's still
Yes.
gonna be difficult. It will be a challenge, but I'm guessing the challenge will be worth it in the end
Yeah,
as
and Nikki,
well.
what does that say of you, right? When in a very difficult time, you're able to actually achieve your goal. It just says a lot about us, right? And I guess,
Mhm.
when we look back 5 years after to these 2 years, that have challenged the entire world, and we are able to build something, or we're able to
Yeah.
explore something, I think it says a lot about us as human beings. And hence, we have to take advantage of this time, to try and do something meaningful, something that makes us joyful, even if it's, to help other people, to participate in charity, these things that we've always wanted to do but never had the time to do. Now is the time to do it.
That is true. People are trying to make time. I've known some people who are actually trying to make time for this as well. And so they're probably on the right path. So I'm trying to do some small things as well. So thank you, Cherry, for that. But yes, for those who are just joining us monsters, this is Heard on Thursdays. You got me, Nikki, and my guest for tonight is Chief People Awakener, Cherry Pua-Africa. And now, from motivational speaking, from transforming people's lives, let's talk about NLP. Now, this is something that I actually wanted to research about, but then so I read about it a little bit, but I want you to explain for the monsters who are listening or watching also. What is neuro linguistic programming? What is it about?
Oh, it's a technical term, no? A little bit
Ooh.
frightening when you hear it,
Yeah. Yeah.
especially the word programming, Nikki. The word
Yeah.
programming. It's like
That's
people are brainwashing you, or doing something to actually mold you into a particular shape. Neuro linguistic programming. Neuro is mindset, the mind. right? And our nervous system. When we talk about the nervous system, we have three brains. We have the head brain. We also have the heart brain. There are neurons in our heart, and we have the gut brain,
Yeah.
and there are neurons in our gut. The one
Hmm.
stands for creativity, the heart stands for compassion, and the gut stands for courage. These are three expressions of the three brains, and they are the highest form of expressions. One that makes you a great leader, a great human being. So that is neuro, and so neuro means the N in neuro means you're able to take charge of your mind, to take charge of your emotions, your state, to take
Mm.
charge of your critical thinking and creativity, to take charge of your courage. Linguistic is your language. No, your mindset, what's happening inside us, it's all invisible. People can't see it, right? Unless you probably put an X-ray to that. But communication, people can hear you. It's heard, and saying the right word is so important in healing. It's so important in building, so important in creating. So we need to make sure that we have the communication skill that's actually going to bring humanity into a higher level. And finally, programming is our behavior, and this is what people see a lot. And people will judge us according to our behaviors, and so it is so important that we behave best. If you add these three things together, our mindset, our language, and our behavior, and you actually utilize this in the highest way possible, then we are able to achieve things in a very easy way. We are at flow state. And so NLP is all about an achievement tool. It tells us how we could achieve things, our goals, whatever goals they are. It provides us with a roadmap to move from the present to the future. And it
Mm.
helps us to actually fight all of those things in the messy middle, those, bad emotions, those, toxic energies.
Yeah.
Uh, Annoying people, I guess, difficult people, challenging situations. No? There are tools in order for us to actually just move past that and get to our goals and dreams.
I love how it includes or acknowledges, like, the gut have it being the third brain, because that also, because of the phrase, I'm trusting my gut. So, like, what does my gut think, right? And like a lot of us probably don't think that, it's just a saying, but then now that you're talking about it, it is technically a third brain in this NLP. So it's a wonderful thing to just realize about, like, how the gut actually does perform, I guess, in decision making and in terms of courage, like you said, because that's what it's in charge of. Now I want to know how NLP can be applied into our regular lives. So, like, if there's something that we want to do and want to sustain it and keep it up throughout the next year or the years to come as well, where does NLP come in there?
In our relationships, in our leadership, in our interactions with people, NLP is all about understanding who we are and who other people are, and how we are wired, to think in a certain way, and how people are wired to think in a certain way. We are all, I guess, we have our past, and they are our unique past. We have our way of filtering information. So I guess we have our own biases and filters. If we
Mhm.
understand our limitations, and I understand where you're coming from, it is easier to bridge, gaps. It is easier to find a common place. It is easier to negotiate. It is easier to lead. It is easier to follow. And hence, NLP, I guess, makes us just better human beings, because there's a lot of understanding and respect and listening and holding each other. And it's awareness, I guess, no? That collective awareness. If we're both NLP, then we are actually invoking that collective awareness, knowing where we both are, and
Mhm.
understanding, and making the space bigger. And that's being influential, I guess. When you make the space bigger, you become the better person, you become the bigger person, you become the more influential person.
If I may, can we try and do sort of a not really a session for NLP, but, like, for example, like, I just wanted an example of, like, how NLP would apply to this, like a particular thing that I want to achieve. Let's say for a friend, not for me.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say she she wants to try and date again. Again, this is for a friend. She wants to try and date again. But she has this hesitation and doubt that, baka the next guy again is gonna break her heart, is going to lie to her, she's just going to be an option instead of a priority. So there's a lot of fears that are keeping her
Mm-hmm.
from actually wanting to date again. So how can NLP actually help in terms of
Mhm.
her getting back into the field and actually meet someone worthwhile?
Mhm. I guess when the person is, thinking maybe in the past that person, got
Mm,
hurt.
yes.
When you are in that state, when you are actually combining an event with an emotion that's making you get stuck with it, you are in an associative state, which means you associate with it. And hence you can't move past that, right? Hindi ka maka-move
Yeah.
on. They're saying that.
Mm,
No, associated trauma. Trauma is a strong emotional feeling about a certain event.
yes.
No? So, pwedeng may traumatic experience siya. So, hanggat nandoon ka, hanggat associated ka sa isang particular event with very strong emotions, you cannot move on. And hence, what NLP will do is to try and help you dissociate from that so that when you look at it, you are actually looking at it from an objective standpoint. And there is only one goal of that event, and that is actually to draw lessons from that event. When you are mining lessons from that, then you are growing and then you are moving forward. And that's generative. Until you get past that, it's always going to be remedial. How do you heal the
Mm,
past? How do you actually forget, the events that hurt you?
yeah.
Uh, and we have a number of tools to do that. If it's really a strong trauma, we do regression, no, timeline regression. When you go back to
Mm-mm.
your past, you associate your past, and you try and look for that root cause, and you try to take out that strong emotion from the root cause. There's a lot of hypnosis also that goes around with that. But I guess for a thing like dating, unless it is really such a serious thing, you just need to actually help the person, dissociate
Mm.
dissociate a little, associate more to the positive emotions of dating again. And then
Oh.
that's when you get past the past and go to the future visualization. To visualize how you will look like, when you start dating again. And that's when in NLP we have, like, some tools where you just expand we call it submodality, which means you see yourself in a bigger way. You hear
Mhm.
yourself talk when you're dating and you're feeling good, and you're just enjoying, your companionship with someone, and you're hearing, loud happy voices. You try and
Yeah.
expand that and associate more with positive emotions. Then you will, the body will just move closer to that one because it's more
Yeah.
positive. Then you will
That's
move
true.
away from the negative event. And it's all just association and dissociation, moving towards and moving away from emotions or situations that hurt you.
All right. Well, I think a lot of
Mm-hmm.
monsters who are encountering relationship issues or dating issues may have learned a thing or two with the
Mm-hmm.
cherry, just breaking it down how NLP works or neuro linguistic programming with regards to how to move on and just date and
Mm-hmm.
meet someone. Now, I
Mm-hmm.
like how you mentioned hypnosis because we are right about to head into that subject because so you are a hypnotherapist. Now, I want to know, is that different from a hypnotist? Is there a difference or are they about similar?
Well, there are people. Hypnosis actually has a lot of applications in terms of,
Mm,
jobs, and helping people. Uh, there are stage hypnotists, right? They do things for, entertainment and everything.
yes.
And there are
Yes.
people who use hypnosis, right? You're a hypnotist using hypnosis to heal, to try
Yes.
and make people be in a better state, so that they are actually able to see things better and generate new possibilities in their lives. Because when you are in a
Mm,
negative state, you are not generating anything, you're not creating anything, you're not at your flow state. Hypnosis basically just brings a person from the beta state. Beta state is a stressful state. When we are doing things, when we're working, when we are actually multitasking, we are in a beta state, and it's a very stressful state. At the beta state, we are not too much open to suggestions. We are going to sabotage it. We're going to resist suggestions of change. We're going to find all the reasons why we shouldn't change and justify, the present state where we are, even though it is limiting us and hurting us. We have a tendency to fight, for all the wrong things, just and hold on to it like the soap opera of our life. We are at that beta state. Now we go to another state where the brain waves are actually flowing in a slower level, and that is called the alpha state. And in that alpha state, we call it
Mm.
a state of trance, you're actually open to more suggestions. And so hypnosis is a process that brings a person from the beta state to an alpha state, which means you are just simply more relaxed. When you are relaxed, you are open to suggestions, you are not resisting, you are not distracted by negative emotions, and hence change happens in the alpha state.
So, okay, the extent of my of hypnotherapy for me has, and I'm not gonna lie, it is K drama. They use it often in K drama shows. So, and how they depict it anyway is that the person is lying down or sitting comfortably, and then they give the subject prompts or cues so that they can actually snap into their past particular situation that they have to be in, and then from there, like the hypnotherapist will have to guide them through it, and for either for a realization, or I guess in K drama to find out who the killer is. So is that actually possible, like for you to actually go back in time sort of in your brain, and then try and notice things that happened in your surroundings that you didn't notice, like from your memory, that you just forgot from your memory?
Yes. Sometimes when I lose my keys or I couldn't find something, you could use hypnosis to actually try and look for that.
Really?
You know, you can go back to the past. You can even go back to, well, there are some hypnotists who would actually bring you to a past before your birth, right?
Oh,
But
wow.
but
Okay.
yeah, life before birth. But
Mhm.
to me, hypnosis brings you to a state where you're able to actually access those dusty folders that actually has some
Uh,
information that you took for granted because you weren't
right.
paying attention. And that is called our unconscious mind, right? When I'm interacting with you, Nikki, there's a lot of
Hmm.
consciousness, right? I choose to pay attention to certain things that matter to me so that I could listen well to your questions. But there are also so many data points that I'm just actually not paying attention to because I will be in a state of overwhelm and I will be defocused from this
Hmm.
process. And all
Yeah.
of these data points just gets chucked into our unconscious mind. And hence when you say, you follow your gut, you listen to your intuition, you're actually trying to access those dusty folders that contains all of those data points that you didn't give
Hmm.
importance to, but are now
Yeah.
important again, right? You see a person
Yeah.
and the person is saying all the right things, right? And everything is, if the person is saying to you, there are all indications that's telling you that, buy that thing, but then somehow in your unconscious you're saying, no, I cannot trust that person. It is because you saw something in the micro expression, in the body language, or in whatever it is that you just didn't pay attention to, but your unconscious mind picked it up. And so you're going to try and
Ooh.
access those information inside you. We call that, and a lot of times, intuition, right? We're drawing wisdom from it, but there's a lot of data points in intuition.
Hmm.
Um, so in the alpha state, we try and say hello to our unconscious minds.
Yeah.
So even when you are going on a regression and going back on your past, and really just thinking about the past events, for example, that hurt you because you want to go on, regression, timeline regression, so that
Hmm.
you could heal. You're going to actually just, you're accessing all those data points from the past, and consciously telling yourself, to dissociate the negative emotions so that you could pick up the lessons objectively. You cannot pick up the lessons when you are associated, right? You are going to
Mm,
fight for the
right.
negative emotions no matter what. But when you are saying,
Hmm.
okay, just an event, what is it teaching me? What is it telling me? What does a past hurt, telling me? And you try and use and utilize these lessons in your future interactions, then that is called
Wow.
growth. You become a better person as a result of that. So there is no failure. There's only feedback in the system if you believe in
Hmm.
NLP.
Wow. Wow. Okay. I want to ask you this because when, let's say, post pandemic and we're allowed to have guests again in the station, will you be willing to put me into hypnotherapy through Heard on Thursdays? And then we'll try, like, would that work? Is that possible? Is it feasible in this situation? Like, you are in the same room and then we do hypnotherapy, like here in HOT. Like, is it
Mhm.
possible to go through that? And so that people will also know, like, okay, this is how it is pala.
It depends on what our intentions are, right? At the end,
Right. Yeah.
when I actually put you in a state of in an alpha state, the answer is yes. If you are, suggestive, in the end, it hypnosis is not these things where you see, in movies, for example, where you go on a state where you don't anymore know what is happening and you are no longer in charge. In a
Mhm.
state of in an alpha state, you are very much in charge. You are aware. You are just relaxed. So when you are
Mm.
reading a book and you are so, caught in trance reading a book and somebody's talking to you and you are not hearing that because you're just really reading a book, that
Yeah.
is already a state of trance. You are
Mhm.
in a hypnotic state. So it's very simple. There's a lot of misconception about hypnosis. So we could put each other in a trance. We do that when we do training. We do collective hypnosis where we just put everyone in a state of relaxation, and we try and
Yeah.
feed some suggestions to try and whatever it is boost your confidence, etc. So yes, we can do that. I can put you in an anchored state of confidence too, if you want, where you're able to access that.
Yeah.
However, of course, here on there might be a lot of self consciousness, and so sometimes when we do hypnosis, we ask them to be on off camera if it's done online, because
Oh yeah.
when you get a little bit self conscious, you cannot go in a state of unconsciousness.
Mhm. True.
Yeah, it's possible. I'm not sure if it's the optimal way to actually put you in a state of trance.
Agreed. Yeah. I see that. I see that. Well, it was worth asking because like it's an interesting concept that I actually am interested in subjecting myself into, because it's probably there is something in my unconscious that I have to reveal or dust off so that I can live better. Right? That's
We can
it.
have a one-on-one session on that.
There we go. Now we're talking. So we've talked about motivational speaking and transformational coaching. We've talked about NLP and hypnotherapy. Now, I also want to know, as a motivational transformational coach, I'm sure you are an expert goal setter as well. Now, we are heading into 2022, and beyond all the challenges we face this year, how can we actually do this transformation? How can we awaken ourselves? And, can you share some advice, particularly in terms of achieving your goals uh, through the crisis and amidst the stress, the anxiety, and sometimes even the depression that we hope to not carry into this next year?
Mhm. Your question is, how do we set goals?
How do we set goals and actually, well, I guess keep up with them in the next year?
Yes. Well, you see, we're talking about the brains here, right? The unconscious mind and the conscious mind, right? Our consciousness helps us to actually write our goals. So, goal setting is very much the role of the conscious mind. But goal seeking is the role of the unconscious mind. There are so many things that can happen that will
Oh,
sabotage us from actually pursuing
yeah,
our goal. At the
true.
middle of our journey, perhaps in February or March, that's too soon though to give up on a dream, right? When you
Yeah.
reach April, May, June, and then suddenly it becomes hard, and the soul gets tired and the spirit, gets frustrated. A lot of people will say, you know what? I don't like it anyway. We are so good at convincing ourselves that, we never wanted that or are not passionate about that goal. That is our conscious mind sabotaging it. And so it is so important to actually enroll the buy-in of our unconscious mind. Our emotions uh, embody the goal. We have to embody the goal, and then we have to teach ourselves certain skills: stamina, willpower, discipline. These are things that will take us through the long journey. Otherwise, it's all going to be just nice to hear. We write it, on a planner, in a paper, in a
Yeah.
poster in January.
Yes.
Then the
Yes.
moment the first thing, difficult thing, hits us, we actually then just give up. Embodiment is so
Mm.
important. There's so many skills that we need to build in order to actually sustain the journey. And I
Mm.
guess the other thing is try and deconstruct that big goal into small goals. No? So every
Yeah.
month we will have small milestones, and then we need to reward ourselves. That's our dopamine, right? The
Hmm.
dopamine is the achievement hormone. And when you reward reward that, you actually increase more dopamines, and you actually, your body is telling you, come on, let's achieve more. But you've got to reward yourself with whatever it is that makes your soul jump and makes your body even, more committed to the process. We've got to do that, to build small goals, so that it doesn't get too far, because too
Yeah,
far will create
true.
stress, will create a lot of stress.
That is one very, very enlightening tip for those who are interested in writing their New Year's resolutions. Because, 2022 is not so far away from now. And I'm sure some people are listing it down that end. So hopefully, we've learned a thing or two also with the Cherry over here telling us that we have to put our unconscious mind in seeking and in setting
Mhm.
these goals. See, I'm
Yes.
learning. Look at that. That's
Yes. Awesome. Awesome, Nikki.
great. So we are actually nearing the end of the show, but before I do, I want to know also the podcast you just started. It's called The Awakener. And so tell us about like what you'll be talking about there. Where can we find the podcast as well?
You could go to Spotify, or or YouTube. Also, we're there. It's called The Awakener, and whatever, we will talk a lot about NLP. We are going to
Mhm.
try and bring it down to the level of, to a level that resonates with us in our everyday lives. How can we actually utilize all of these gifts? Our energies, our emotions. These are all our resources, in order for us to achieve, the best possible versions of us, and to do it with ease, because there is a natural, wisdom system that's available in us. We have an inner mentor in us, that we could access if the channels are open. So the awakener is all about making our channels open, so that we are not
Mm.
in a state of, in a constipated state. When we are in a constipated state, our bodies are small, we are constricted, we are reacting, we are getting angry, we
Yes.
have analysis paralysis, we're not moving. We want to be in a state where we're open, when we're listening, where we're empty, so that we could receive, new ideas, new thoughts, and emerge something bigger. And that's what NLP can do, to provide us the tools and the right states and resources to move forward to the next better state and better direction.
Love it. And do you have any upcoming events also in case the monsters are interested into like, you know what, let's change my life, Cherry, let's go, let's do this. Any upcoming events or where can they find, your upcoming events as well for those who are tuned in on the radio?
Yeah. We have just finished an event called Fierce Grace, where we have invited people, no, empowerment coaches from different parts of the world, to join us, to come to the Philippines and talk to people who needed a
Oh,
message to
wow.
lift their spirits up. We wanted to repeat that next year. So we're going to, we will be announcing that in our Facebook page. The name of the company is World Stage International, or NLP Asia Pacific. We're also coming up with an NLP practitioner course, a lot of certification courses on NLP for people who wanted to be life coaches, who wanted to be better people
Ooh.
managers, who wanted to be better parents, better human beings. Do come and ask us about how you could actually access this wonderful tool. We do a lot of work with corporates, with companies and teams, Nikki.
Hmm.
And January is going to be a very busy month for us, where we try and rally the spirits and the human bodies and teams to
Yeah.
come together towards a common vision, so that we could reach our ambitions, and our aspirations in a way that's easy.
There we go. Well, the socials are also down there in the marquee if you guys are watching on
Mhm.
Twitch, on YouTube, on Facebook as well. Any last messages for your followers? Actually, we have a few people. Pia Plaza, you have Timothy, and also Dindin and Paulo and Mark Gonzalez who are saying hello, Coach. They are
Hello, hello
watching
to
this
everyone.
interview. So, any last messages and greets before we end the show?
We're nearing the end of the year, so yay to our human
Yes.
spirits and our human bodies for actually, staying the fight, and for choosing to actually stay, alive and passionate, I guess. No, and the message here is, this is a time of learning and reflection for us. And so before the year ends, to try and make it an intentional on your part, on our part, to try and list down the things that we have learned through this great challenge, because it's never probably going to happen again in our lifetime. And to try and challenge ourselves to that next phase that gets us closer and closer to our highest version, a version that we don't probably understand because we don't know and we have not yet met that person. But it will be wonderful to actually become face to face with that best version of ours. And so life is all about awakening. Life is all about staying awake and looking and listening and opening ourselves and our channels so that we're able to receive, the message of the world for us, and always stay positive.
All right. Always stay positive, especially during the holidays when it can be a little rough as well. But also, Merry Christmas to you, Cherry. And thank you.
Merry Christmas, Nikki, and thank you so much for having me in your first show. I
Thank you
am,
for taking the
I'm
time.
honored. I'm honored.
Well, this has been Heard on Thursdays. My guest was Chief People Awakener Cherry Pua-Africa. Thank you for all of the monsters who tuned in online and on air, on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitch as well. Catch me again next Thursday. We might be doing something for the Christmas season as well. So keep it locked. But for now, it's goodbye, good night, and keep it locked. Only here on The
Yes.
Monster.
And stay awake.
It's true.